Ethiopia is a country that is mainly dominated by agriculture. So I think more than 90% of the people actually depend on rain-fed agriculture. And farmers in the highlands actually depend on one rainy season a year. If this rainy season is delayed or stops early, they can be threatened immediately by crop failure. Everything is done manually, and all practices are very simple. So you can imagine that the vulnerability of such farmers is very high to any kind of changes in the natural resource base, to any kind of socio-economic changes. They will be highly affected immediately.
EBL-Nexus stands for Enquiry-Based Learning for the Land and Water Nexus, and it is a project between Addis Ababa University, Khartoum University, Jordan University and Cologne University of Applied Sciences. The benefit of cooperation is that each of these universities is located in a unique environment, providing case studies for the students and also for the researchers with a very special setting. In each country we have a case study that is forming the basis for learning and for doing research together.
Different student groups mixed from all the different partner universities are supposed to look at different stakeholders that are involved in this agricultural sector and assess the challenges of land degradation and climate variability of this sector and find out how different stakeholders deal with this issue.
The excursion took place in the northern highlands of Ethiopia, in the Amara region, and there we basically made some field trips to different study locations that were in between Lake Tana and the Simien Mountains in altitudes ranging from the 1,000 and 3,600 meters above sea level. In this study work we had a chance to meet the different stakeholders that were involved, which were the farmers, the NGOs, the research, and the government that was represented by the Extension Service of the Agricultural Office.
The main challenge for the farmers in the Ethiopian Highlands is, on the one hand, the natural resource base in terms of climate variability, physical geography, as well as available soils. And on the other hand, the socioeconomic factors induced mainly by the growth population.
Rainfall variability, both interannual and seasonal, is a major cause for food insecurities in Ethiopia. If you look at the annual basis, we might see that enough rain is falling. However, the distribution over the year is highly unequal. In the wet season, we have a lot of rain falling that gets simply lost as runoff and is not utilized by the farmers. And in the dry season, water is scarce. And for the farmers, it is very important that an adequate quantity of rainwater is falling during the growing season. And if then the rain is not coming, it is highly problematic for their crop yield. On the other hand, it's not only the absence of rain that can lead to crop failure, it's also too much rain falling within a short time period, because that can cause waterlogging and floodings.
Ethiopia is a vast growing population with almost 90 million inhabitants, so that creates socio-economic pressures. More people simply need more food. Therefore, they need more fuel, wood to cook their meals, as well as more land to cultivate their crops and build houses. And well, this has led to extensive deforestation actions to clear the land for agriculture and livestock farming, leading to problems such as erosion, soil nutrient depletion, and overgrazing. According to FAO, Ethiopia has right now only 3% of natural forest cover left.
From the field observation and the interview that we did with the farmers, we realized that there is adaptation strategy that they are doing to cope up with the climate variability and the land degradation that they are facing. First, things that there is stone terraces along the slope to detain the water so that it decreases the runoff and increases the infiltration in the area. Besides this, they use the terraces to divert the water to the storage pond, and they can use this water later in the dry season.
Normally at the beginning of May, the farmers usually sow their crops. Before that time, the fields are covered with bare soil. But however, because of the newly introduced irrigation schemes, the farmers can grow potatoes or onions in their field. So we can see along the rivers and small streams some already matured crops. This is because of the benefit of newly introduced irrigation schemes.
Irrigation is actually a very useful technique to reduce the dependence on rainfall. And farmers use very simple irrigation techniques. What they do is they simply divert the water from the rivers. However, in the dry season, not enough water is flowing through the whole riverbed. And therefore, farmers concentrate the small fraction that is flowing downward in the riverbed. They use, for example, stones to concentrate the water and divert the water through small handmade channels to their crop fields.
Irrigation schemes can contribute to better crop productivity and yields because of better fertilizer response of the soil. Then the farmers also grow eucalyptus tree in some slopes or some soils for their alternative income. Also for their construction of their house. For the wood, eucalyptus trees can provide the wood for their home construction.
Another strategy is that the farmers are grouping themselves into 5 or 6 people with the aim of increasing production and also helping each other with money and manpower. What they do is that they sow the field together, plow it together and irrigate it together before going to another field, and by this they are increasing the production in the region.
Most of the adaptation strategies that we have seen are efforts of the Ministry of Agriculture. And their main goal is basically to increase the agriculture productivity in the small-scale farming. And this is basically a plan of the government that envisions to make Ethiopia a middle-income country by 2020. And they are planning to do this by shifting subsistence agriculture to a more market-oriented production system. In this regard, the Extension Service plays a leading role by improving the yield productivity in these small-scale farmings. Meeting the Extension Service has been important for us to understand the relationship between the government and the farmers.
Generally, the Extension Service acts as a knowledge broker and input supplier to the farmers. They, for example, introduce the fertilizers to the farmers and advise the farmers to increase the crop varieties and introduce new cropping techniques such as irrigation. And also they organize the farmers into groups to strengthen the farmers' decision making and knowledge transfer.
The effort of extension services is partly fruitful. For example, the water availability within the last years has been increased substantially due to newly introduced techniques such as diversion of rivers, digging wells, storage of waters with ponds or terracing. According to the extension services, the seed input for sowing the fields has been reduced from 30 kilograms to 5 kilograms. This is truly a step forward for saving the farmers' income, time and effort.
Next to the extension services, the local NGOs also are trying to tackle the problem of climate variability and the land degradation in the area. And we had the opportunity to visit Coastal Development Program, which is operating about 25 kilometers outside the Gondar region. And it's really interesting because they are promoting the household gardening, and by this they combat the malnutrition and trying to achieve the food security in the area.
NGOs trains mothers as well as children on how to diversify their crops through different vegetables such as carrots, cabbages or lettuce. They provide vegetable seeds, gardening manuals and tools, and they also build demonstration gardens where mothers are invited to learn about nutrition. Up to date, there are almost 400 families in 28 neighborhoods which have established this household gardening. Such NGOs are actually very important to reach a sustainable development within rural communities.
The relationship between the different stakeholders as well as the adaptation strategies are marked by a variety of complications. If we take the example of the storage ponds, we have seen that they're actually not large enough to really secure the harvest in the dry season. And on the other hand, they evolved as major breeding places for mosquitoes. So simply from those two factors, we think they are not very effective. However, our main concern are the plastic sheets that the farmers need to acquire in order to detain the water in the ponds. And the problem with these sheets is that the farmers need to get a loan from the credit service. And they do that because the extension service tells them to do so in order to increase their yield and their income. But there's simply no compensation if it doesn't pay off.
The extension services are following the top-down approach, which is simply they tell the farmers what to do, but not then giving them the chance to contribute about the ideas and the knowledge. And also the farmers cannot speak out their needs. It is just a supply-driven approach.
If you, as an employee of the extension service, simply go through with your trainings, not actively listening to the concerns of the farmers, visiting their homes and drinking a cup of coffee with them, they will hardly adopt the teachings. So there are cultural barriers, and these barriers prevent farmers from accepting the introduced adaptation strategies of the extension service. On the other hand, there's not enough staff available of the extension service to really visit all farmers with a sufficient frequency.
Farmers, they heavily depend on their annual yield to generate income. But if there are some crop failures, for example, due to droughts, then they need to have to get a loan from the credit service. Now, there are many cases where the farmer's income is actually not enough to pay this loan. So in this case, it will be very difficult for them to get another loan from the credit service to buy fertilizers, for example, that they need for their productivity.
There are two kinds of fertilizers. One with high quality, the other one with low quality. But the farmers cannot afford to buy the one of high quality because they don't have money. But they need this one to increase the productivity.
Although eucalyptus trees have many good points for the farmers, they also have negative impacts because they are well known for high uptake of nutrients and groundwater because of their deep-rooted system. Also, they acidify the soils. And concerning the soil fertility, eucalyptus trees are really accelerating soil nutrient depletion, which is not good for agricultural crops.
Land degradation from crop expansion does not only affect low productivity conditions for the agriculture, but it also affects unique ecosystems that are present in the area. We have to understand that the Ethiopian Highlands are one of the most densely populated agricultural areas in Africa. So this is a very important aspect to consider. The ongoing crop expansion implies deforestation, and this severely degrades highly valuable ecosystems and biodiversity.
To our surprise, even well-protected areas like the Simien Mountains that are known because of their unique Afro-Alpine ecosystem and their endemic species like the Ethiopian wolf and the Gelada baboon, they are also affected by the land clearing in steep slopes because of agricultural activities.
If we think of possible solutions to improve rural livelihoods, we could name a range of different aspects. One aspect that is very important is to make water storage ponds more affordable, because at the moment the use of plastic sheets comes along with economic punishment for the farmers. So by not using these sheets, these ponds would be more affordable in our perspective, even though the infiltration rate would be higher. But still, we think that then the storage ponds could contribute to a small fraction of the for water supply of the agricultural field.
Farmers need to improve their soil fertility by introducing agroforestry, which in turn can improve the soil moisture by reducing evaporation, and also agroforestry can improve the soil physical structure by adding humus or litter.
Other issues that we're having is communications between all the stakeholders. We need to
side. Also, some of these recommendations is not in the right place. You do not rate.
One recommendation is to improve the credit service mechanism. Basically, this mechanism is not working because farmers cannot pay the credit loans that they're receiving from the system. Farmers are not having enough crop yields to have income and pay these loans. And another recommendation that we have is to improve the land tenure system. The land is owned by the government, so this means that the farmers does not have land ownership and is not motivated to follow the extension services advice on their grounds.
So I think what is needed is an establishment of an early warning system that can help the farmers to planify better their cropping activities in terms of shifting their use of the input factors like fertilizers or seeds for some weeks when there are known optimal weather conditions. This can also help the farmers to search for other income sources such as tourism or beekeeping instead of depending only on agriculture.
Degraded soils, which are not suitable for agricultural purposes, should be reforested. So there is a strong need for reforestation programs to reduce evaporation and to bind carbon and to rehabilitate the degraded soils. And also setting slope limits in agricultural fields is necessary to reduce the negative impact of erosion in sloping lands.
I think that the lack of an adequate communication framework is actually the reason for the persistence of a variety of problems, and therefore it has to be improved. There's an ongoing complaint among the farmers that the overall top-down approach of the extension service finds little acceptance. So I think a more participatory approach among farmers and the extension service could help to solve problems in a more equal but not commanding manner. Also because farmers, they do have traditional knowledge that might be appropriate to make use of in order to find solutions together.
In the field trip, we could observe that there was a huge gap in between extension services and the research department. One example that we saw was the fertilizer use of the farmers. The extension services agents does not know which type of fertilizers the farmer has to use. So by this, extension services have to improve this coordination and communication with research in order to develop strategies that can adapt to local circumstances.
I think the work of the NGOs is very important to understand the local circumstances, and thus it has to be more involved in the national plan to tackle the ongoing challenges together. And this improved communication can lead to both vertical and horizontal knowledge diffusion. This process of knowledge diffusion and education should not only involve older generations, but I think it should also involve younger generations.